He's not over you. He's just silent, and silence for some men is not peace, it's punishment. It's the sound of pride wrestling with pain. You see, when words end, truth begins to speak. And the truth is simple: he still feels you, he still thinks, he still remembers. But pride won't let him show it. When a man falls quiet after losing you, he doesn't disappear into nothing, he disappears into himself. He analyzes every moment, every word, every gesture. He replays what he once dismissed, he questions what he once ignored, because silence is the space where realization grows, and realization hurts. He told himself he didn't need you. He told his friends he moved on. He built the mask, the narrative, the illusion of control. But at night, when the world goes quiet, his mind doesn't cooperate. It brings you back, not as nostalgia, but as truth, the kind of truth that exposes the difference between ego and emotion. His pride told him walking away would make him stronger. But now he's learning strength isn't found in silence, it's found in self-confrontation. The man who avoids his feelings doesn't master them, he becomes their prisoner. And that's where he is, trapped between his longing and his pride. Understand something powerful: when someone goes silent after you, it's not always detachment, it's discomfort. Silence is his way of managing the weight of regret without admitting it. Because to speak would mean to acknowledge the truth he fears most. He let go of something real. He pushed away someone who mattered. And yet, you'll see him carry on. You'll see him active, smiling, busy. But don't be deceived by appearances. People who are truly over you don't need distractions. They live in peace. He doesn't. He's performing stability, not living it. Because his silence is not closure, it's avoidance. Pride keeps him quiet because speaking would cost him power. And that's what this is really about. The tug of war between love and ego. He doesn't reach out, not because he doesn't want to, but because doing so would mean admitting weakness. So he stays silent, convincing himself that silence equals control. But control without peace is torment disguised as composure. The hardest lesson he's learning right now is that silence doesn't erase emotional truth. You can suppress what you feel, but suppression is not healing. It's delay. The truth waits. It waits in the quiet, in the memories, in the songs, in the sudden ache that appears for no reason. And that's where he is, living with the truth he won't speak. He watches but doesn't reach out. He thinks but doesn't act. He feels but refuses to confess. Every day that he stays silent, he loses a piece of himself to that silence. Because silence, when fueled by pride, becomes a prison. But here's what you need to remember. His silence is not your signal to chase. It's his journey, his confrontation. Don't mistake his quiet for closure or peace. You are not the one who needs to break it. You already spoke your truth. You already showed your worth. Now, silence is his test, not yours, because the truth is, when you stop giving attention, the echo becomes unbearable. The mind begins to chase what the heart refused to honor. That's when he realizes he didn't win by being silent, he lost by staying silent. Let him face it, let him feel it, let him fight it. Because silence may protect pride, but it also exposes emptiness. Eventually the mask cracks, and behind it the same truth remains. He's not over you. He's just afraid to admit it. And remember, your power is not in responding. Your power is in remaining grounded, focused, and calm while he battles the chaos he created. Silence, when used with self-respect, is not weakness. It's a mirror that reflects truth. And the truth is this: the one who remains silent out of pride always ends up haunted by what pride made him lose. Silence has never been the gentle medicine people romanticize it to be. It's not peace. It's not serenity. It's a mirror, and that mirror doesn't lie. When everything goes quiet, when the distractions fade, when the noise of excuses finally dies, what's left is confrontation. Confrontation with your own truth. And truth doesn't heal you, it breaks you first. Most people fear silence because it removes the escape routes. As long as you keep talking, blaming, explaining, you avoid yourself. But when the noise stops, there's nowhere left to hide. Silence becomes the battlefield between who you pretend to be and who you really are. That's why it feels uncomfortable. Because silence doesn't soothe your wounds, it exposes them. When someone goes silent after losing you, don't assume they've found peace. Silence doesn't mean they've moved on. It means they've entered a war with themselves, a war where memories, pride, and regret all collide. Every quiet moment becomes a reminder of what they refuse to face. Every unspoken word becomes a question they can't escape. Silence is where the truth they denied comes to collect its debt. Silence strips away illusion. You start to see what's real, not what you wish was real. You remember the things you ignored, the signs you dismissed, the boundaries you crossed. In that stillness, there's no applause, no validation, no distraction, just you and the truth you've avoided. That's why it's painful, because it's honest. Healing doesn't begin in silence, it passes through it. But before it heals, it confronts. It confronts your denial, it confronts your pride, it confronts every justification you've used to stay blind. Silence has a way of cornering the ego, forcing it to admit the things it swore it never would. And the ego hates that. It calls this pain loneliness, but it's not loneliness, it's awakening. You see, silence is not passive, it's active, it's alive, it listens, observes, and reveals. It shows you who you are when no one's watching. It reveals what still controls you, what still hurts you, what still defines you. You can't fake comp. Osher in silence, the mask falls off because there's no audience left to impress. And that's the confrontation, realizing that most of what you said, most of what you did, was an act to protect your pride from truth. People think time heals, but time only provides the silence that forces truth to surface. Healing doesn't come from the clock. It comes from the courage to face what time reveals. If you spend your silence running from truth, you stay wounded. But if you use your silence to look truth in the eye, you start to transform. Silence isn't the end of communication. It's the beginning of self-awareness. When you're quiet, you start hearing the deeper voice inside, the one that's been drowned out by noise, fear, and denial. That voice doesn't flatter you, it doesn't comfort you, it tells you where you went wrong, what you must release, and what you must rebuild. That's why silence feels heavy, because it carries wisdom you weren't ready to hear. And yes, it hurts, truth always does. But that pain is sacred. It's the purification of the soul. It's the dismantling of illusion. In silence, you discover what's real love, and what was just attachment, what was strength, and what was just control, what was healing, and what was just distraction. Silence is truth with the volume turned all the way up. So when life goes quiet, don't rush to fill the void. Don't call it loneliness. Don't numb it with noise. Sit in it, feel it, let it reveal you. Because silence isn't healing. It's the confrontation required before healing begins. It's the darkness before the dawn. It's the fire that burns away everything false so that only truth remains. And once you've faced that truth, once you've stopped running from what silence shows you, you emerge different, stronger, wiser, clearer. Because now you're not living by illusion, you're living by truth. And truth, though it wounds first, always frees you in the end. People often confuse walking away with healing, but distance doesn't equal peace. Detachment isn't always strength. It's often armor. It's the wall you build when you can't bear to feel anymore. It looks like calm, but inside it's chaos sealed behind a quiet face. Emotional detachment doesn't close the chapter, it just hides the pain between the lines. When someone becomes emotionally detached, it's rarely because they've reached closure. It's because they've reached exhaustion. They've felt too much, hoped too long, waited too patiently, and now they're protecting what's left. It's not peace. It's defense. A defense against disappointment, rejection, and vulnerability. A defense against reopening wounds that never truly healed. The problem is that detachment feels safe, but safety isn't always growth. You can't heal behind walls. You can survive there, yes, but surviving isn't the same as living. When you numb the heart to protect it, you also silence its ability to connect, to trust, to love. You don't stop feeling pain, you just stop feeling everything. And that's not freedom, it's emotional paralysis disguised as control. People who detach too quickly don't move on, they suppress. They convince themselves they're strong because they can stay distant, unbothered, indifferent. But that indifference is an illusion, Because when night comes and the noise fades, the truth returns. The feelings you buried don't die, they wait. They wait in silence until the right memory, scent, or voice brings them back. And when they return, they hit harder, because they were never processed, only postponed. Closure doesn't come from walking away, it comes from walking through what you feel. You don't heal by shutting off, you heal by understanding why it hurts, by sitting in the discomfort, by facing the truth, by allowing yourself to feel without drowning in it. Emotional detachment skips that process. It gives the illusion of control, but it's control bought at the cost of growth. And pride loves detachment. Pride tells you to don't need to care, so don't need to feel. You're better off cold. But pride is a liar. It doesn't protect your heart, it isolates it. It tells you to shut down instead of face what's real. And soon you start mistaking numbness for peace. But numbness isn't peace, it's absence. And absence never fills the space that love or truth once occupied. When you detach emotionally, you silence not only pain but also wisdom. Because pain teaches, it reveals patterns, boundaries, self-worth. But when you refuse to feel it, you miss the lesson and repeat the story. Detachment delays growth. It pauses your emotional evolution. It keeps you stuck in survival mode, functioning but not fulfilled. Closure, on the other hand, is brutal. It demands honesty. It asks you to face what went wrong, to accept what cannot be changed, and to forgive, not for them, but for yourself. Closure is emotional exposure. It's tearing down the armor and standing bare before your own truth. That's why so many choose detachment instead. It's easier, it's cleaner, it's less messy. But what's easy rarely transforms you. True closure doesn't come from silence or indifference. It comes from acceptance. Acceptance that not everyone who hurt you will apologize. Acceptance that not every love story will find its way back. Acceptance that sometimes you have to close the door yourself. Without validation, without clarity, without answers. That's closure, the moment you stop searching for justice in places where peace was never meant to be found. Emotional detachment may look strong, but strength isn't avoiding pain. It's enduring it without letting it break your compassion. It's staying open-hearted, even after being wounded. Detachment says, I'll never feel again. Strength says, it can feel again, and still choose peace. That's the difference between defense and growth. So ask yourself, are you detached or are you healed? Because if you have to keep convincing yourself that you don't care, you probably still do. If you have to keep proving you've moved on, you probably haven't. Detachment doesn't free you. It freezes you in a version of yourself that's too afraid to love again. The truth is, healing requires vulnerability. You can't protect your heart and heal it at the same time. You must open it even when it trembles. You must face the emotions that scare you because they are the doorway to transformation. You can't evolve if you stay guarded. You can't find peace if you keep pretending you're already fine. So stop glorifying emotional detachment. Stop calling avoidance strength. Strength is not silence, it's honesty. It's looking at your pain and saying I won't let this define me, but I also won't pretend it doesn't exist. That's real power. Because only when you confront your emotions can you integrate them, learn from them, and finally release them. When the words stop, the truth begins to speak. The silence between two people is never empty, it's full of meaning. The absence of communication doesn't always mean indifference. Sometimes it exposes what words used to hide. When someone goes silent, what's really revealed is not strength, not distance, but dependence, the emotional weight one carried when the connection was alive. You only feel the void deeply when you were deeply tied to it. You only miss the conversation when you once relied on it to feel seen, valued, or secure. That's the paradox. Silence doesn't just show who cared more, it shows who depended more. Because when communication dies, the one who trembles in that emptiness is the one who was feeding their emotional stability through it. Think about it. When someone stops responding and your world suddenly shakes, that's not just about missing them. It's about realizing how much of your peace was tied to their presence. Their words were your reassurance. Their attention was your validation. And when that's gone, you confront something far greater than loss. You confront your dependence. Most people fear silence not because of what it lacks, but because of what it exposes. Silence forces you to see where your self-worth was borrowed. It shows you if your identity was built on someone else's approval. When communication disappears, it reveals whether you were whole before them or just held together by their words. Dependence doesn't always look desperate. It can hide behind habits, behind constant checking, behind a just wondering or a just missing, but underneath it's the same thing: emotional reliance. It's giving someone the keys to your peace and pretending it's love. It's depending on their consistency to regulate your self-esteem, and the moment they pull away, everything inside begins to collapse. That collapse, that ache you feel when they don't reach out, is not just heartbreak, it's a detox from emotional dependency. The silence they left behind becomes a mirror reflecting the parts of you that were never built on your own foundation. You start to realize that you weren't addicted to them, you were addicted to how they made you feel. And when that source disappears, you're forced to face the emptiness you never healed. The absence of communication is a teacher. It teaches you what conversations were real and what were routines. It shows you which bonds were built on respect and which were built on need. It strips you of illusion and hands you reality, sometimes cruel, sometimes liberating, but always honest. And here's the truth: the one who needs silence to stay calm has matured. The one who panics in silence has something to confront. Dependence is not love. It's attachment fueled by fear. Love remains strong even when words pause, but dependence begins to crumble the moment the connection weakens. The absence of communication becomes unbearable when your emotional survival depends on someone else's presence. But this revelation, though painful, is powerful, because it's in that emptiness that you finally meet yourself. You start to ask, why does their silence control me? Why do I need their voice to feel safe? These questions open doors to real growth. The silence you once feared becomes your greatest guide. It shows you the difference between emotional connection and emotional dependency. When communication stops, most people rush to fill the void. Texting, chasing, explaining, proving. But that's not strength, that's fear in disguise. Strength is when you pause and let the silence speak. When you resist the urge to seek reassurance and instead build it within yourself. Because the person who can stand firm in silence has learned the rare art of self-containment. You can't control when others withdraw, but you can control how you respond to that withdrawal. You can use the absence of communication to build emotional independence. To learn that your worth isn't determined by who stays in touch. It's defined by who you are when no one is reaching out. In time, you realize that silence doesn't take anything from you. It only takes away illusion. It shows you what was real and what was built on need. And if you pay attention, the absence of communication transforms from pain into clarity. You begin to see who truly valued you and who only engaged when it was convenient. Dependence often masquerades as connection, but the silence exposes the difference. Real connection remains even without constant contact. It lives in respect, trust, and emotional maturity. Dependence needs constant reassurance. Connection doesn't. The absence of communication becomes the ultimate test of what kind of bond you really had. So when someone goes silent, don't panic, don't chase, don't beg for closure. Let the silence work for you. Let it reveal what you couldn't see when words distracted you. Let it teach you to find stability in yourself rather than in someone else's response. Because the one who learns to stand still in silence learns to stand strong in life. The absence of communication reveals dependence, yes, but it also offers liberati. It gives you the opportunity to reclaim your energy, rebuild your boundaries, and rediscover your independence. Silence may expose your dependence, but it also invites you to evolve beyond it. He wears silence like a crown, but it's not strength, it's protection. Pride has become his shield, his disguise, his defense against vulnerability. To the world, he looks composed, unaffected, untouchable. But beneath that surface, there's unrest, there's conflict. There's a man at war with his own emotions. Pride keeps him standing tall, but it doesn't let him breathe. Pride is his armor, not his peace. You see, pride builds walls, not homes. It creates distance, not safety. He hides behind it because the alternative, exposure, is terrifying. Admitting he's hurt, admitting he cares, admitting he misses you, all of that feels like defeat. And for someone driven by pride, losing control feels worse than losing love. So he chooses silence over sincerity, distance over connection, control over truth. But every defense has a cost. The cost of pride is peace. The more he guards his heart, the heavier it becomes. Because pride doesn't heal. It suppresses, it buries feelings instead of resolving them. It turns pain into denial and denial into emptiness. He tells himself he's fine, that he's moved on, that he doesn't need to talk or feel. But the truth is, he's exhausted from pretending. Pride doesn't make him powerful, it makes him isolated. Pride whispers lies that sound like strength. It tells him, and you don't need anyone. So you're above caring, you're better off detached. But every lie adds another layer of armor, and with every layer, his peace slips further away. He becomes a prisoner of his own defense mechanism. He can't reach out, can't apologize, can't be honest, because pride won't let him. Pride convinces him that vulnerability is weakness, when in reality, it's the only path to freedom. He might think silence keeps his dignity intact, but real dignity isn't in avoidance, it's in accountability. It's in facing the truth without hiding behind ego. The strongest men aren't those who never bend, they're the ones who admit when they've broken something valuable. But pride doesn't allow that. It tells him to endure the discomfort quietly, to look composed even when his heart is in ruins. So he stays silent, not because he's over you, but because he's overexposed to his own pain. Peace doesn't come from pretending, it comes from acceptance. And pride is the enemy of acceptance. Pride demands perfection. It refuses to admit fault, refuses to feel regret, refuses to learn. But in that refusal, it kills peace. It turns the heart into a battlefield where the mind fights the emotions it refuses to acknowledge. Look closer and you'll see it, the stiffness in his silence, the tension in his calm. Pride doesn't calm him, it cages him. Every unspoken word becomes a stone in his chest. Every avoided apology becomes another night of restlessness. He might seem composed, but it's the kind of composure that costs him sleep. He scrolls past your name. He hovers over the message box but doesn't type. He thinks about reaching out, then reminds himself, no, I can't look weak. That's pride talking. Pride always wins the battle but loses the war, because pride gives temporary power but long-term pain. And when the night grows quiet and the performance fades, the truth returns. Pride didn't protect him, it imprisoned him. Peace doesn't demand silence, it demands truth, it demands humility. To find peace, he'd have to drop the armor, admit he's human, admit he feels. But pride won't let him. It tells him that peace comes from being untouched, but peace has never been about being untouched. It's about being honest with what touches you. The irony is, pride makes him feel strong while silently destroying him. It's like wearing armor in a storm. It keeps the rain out, but it also keeps the weight in. He can't release, he can't exhale. Every memory becomes heavier because he refuses to confront it. Every emotion stays unresolved because pride has silenced his voice. You might think his silence means indifference, but it's the opposite. Pride is loud in the quiet. It screams, plaint, don't let them see you care. It commands him to protect his image while his heart burns behind it. And the longer he obeys, the more peace he loses. Pride doesn't protect the heart, it suffocates it. At some point, the armor starts to crack. The same pride that once protected him begins to isolate him from everything real. The friends who care, the love that mattered, the peace he craved, all lost in the name of control. Because you can't receive love while you're wearing armor, you can't feel peace while you're hiding from truth, and you can't heal while you're pretending you don't hurt. The tragedy is that pride always comes before peace. He'll have to break before he softens. He'll have to lose what matters before he understands what pride cost him. That's how most people learn, through silence, through loss, through confrontation with themselves. Eventually he'll realize that the armor doesn't make him strong, it makes him alone. He'll see that admitting weakness is not failure, it's freedom. Because peace doesn't come when you win, it comes when you surrender. Pride may be his armor, but it will never be his peace. Armor can protect, but it can't heal. It can defend, but it can't comfort. True peace begins the moment he lays it down, the moment he stops performing strength and starts living truth. And maybe that's the hardest lesson of all. Sometimes you don't find peace by standing tall. You find it by kneeling before your own honesty. Because pride might keep him from breaking, but it also keeps him from ever being whole.